Assalamu alaikum. Today on Nuran Academy, we discuss the moral architecture of restraint. If you benefit, please support by subscribing and sharing as a sadaqah. All right, let's get right into it. We're so often taught to think about success, about achievement, in terms of what we get, what we collect. But I want to ask you something. What if the real measure of our success, the truest measure, is actually found in the things we choose to walk away from?
That one idea, right there, it completely flips our whole modern idea of success upside down. It's suggesting that maybe, just maybe, our biggest wins, our most important victories, aren't the things you can list on a resume. Instead, they're found in those quiet moments of honorable refusal.
So, what does that even look like, an unseen victory? Well, think about it. It's that business deal that felt a little off and you walked away. It's the praise you could have soaked up but you didn't, because you knew your intention was purely for Allah. It's that moment you could have taken an unfair advantage but you chose to be just instead. These are the real victories of the soul.
And this is so important because one day, those refusals are going to speak so much louder than anything you ever gained. In the grand scheme of things, when our lives are weighed, those moments we held back for the sake of Allah, wow, they will carry a massive weight. They become this silent, powerful proof of how sincere our faith really was.
This whole idea of restraint, it brings us to a core principle that, let's be honest, goes completely against the grain of how the world thinks. Society is constantly screaming at us to get more, more, more. But our faith, it teaches a totally different kind of strength, a higher, much deeper kind.
And just look at the contrast here. It's so stark. On one side, you've got the world's logic: collect, secure, maximize. It's this constant pressure, right? But then, look at faith's wisdom. It offers something so much more freeing. Restrain yourself and trust your path to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through that, you actually purify your heart and even your wealth.
And this wisdom, it works on a few different levels. So first, you have the basic level. Just because something is out there doesn't mean it's permissible, doesn't mean it's halal. But then Islam asks us to go even deeper. Not everything that's technically permissible is actually good for you, good for your soul. And that brings us to the most important point. A believer's real strength isn't just in what they can get, it's in what they have the taqwa, that awareness of Allah, to leave behind just for His sake.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in real life, in that critical moment of decision? We've all been there. You're faced with something tempting, but feels a little questionable. And that's when the internal dialogue starts, right? That little voice in your head starts coming up with all sorts of justifications.
The first one is usually something like this: I deserve this. Our nafs, our ego, it starts whispering, hey, after everything you've been through, all your hard work, you've earned this. It tells you to ignore that little moral red flag. And if that doesn't work, maybe this one comes up: no one would know. The classic temptation of secrecy. As if somehow, if no other person sees it, it just doesn't count. And that's a direct challenge to our belief that Allah is al-Basir, the all-seeing. And of course there's this one. Everyone does it. This is where we try to find safety in numbers, looking for comfort because other people are doing the wrong thing too. But we forget, our standard isn't what's popular, it's what's right in the sight of Allah. But in the middle of all those justifications, there's usually this pause, a little hesitation in your heart. So the question is that hesitation a sign of weakness? Does it mean you're not being decisive enough?
No, absolutely not. That hesitation is the exact opposite of weakness. It is the very definition of a living, breathing faith. That's your iman. It's a gift from Allah, acting like a divine interruption to stop your desire in its tracks. It's there to remind you of who you are and what you're here for. And every single time you listen to that sacred pause, your connection to the next life gets stronger.
So now let's talk about what happens when you actually listen to that call for restraint. Because those private moments of integrity, they don't just vanish into thin air. They create these powerful, positive ripples that spread out into your life and into the lives of others.
Think about a story like this. There's a man, he gets offered a really easy, profitable deal. It's not illegal, but something in his gut just feels wrong. So he quietly turns it down, walks away. Fast forward a few years, and his character is attacked in public. But you know what? His reputation for integrity was so well known that no one believed the accusations. That small choice he made in private years ago, it became his public shield.
And that's the compounding effect, isn't it? It all starts with one decision. First, it protects your own heart from spiritual sickness. Then, that purity spreads outward. It protects your family from anything that's ill-gotten. Then it builds this bedrock of trust in your community. And believe it or not, your honorable choice can end up creating a better world for people you will never, ever meet.
So this really all comes down to the question of our legacy. When we look back on the lives we're building, we have to ask ourselves, how are we measuring success? Is it just about what we collect and achieve, or is it also about the things we honorably refused to be a part of?
So I want you to take a moment and reflect on this, personally, right now in your life. What is that one thing? Maybe it's a habit, or a type of income, or a relationship. The thing that you keep making excuses for, even though you know, deep down in your heart, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gently asking you to let it go, for Him.
And then, imagine that day, the moment when your whole life is laid out for all to see. What is the story of your choices going to be? Will it be a story about getting ahead no matter the cost? Or will it be a beautiful story of principled restraint and quiet, unseen sacrifices?
I mean, can you imagine any greater honor on that day? For Allah Himself, the Most High, to say about you, "They could have taken it, but they didn't, for me." To have Allah as your witness that you held back purely for His sake. Subhanallah. Because in the end, that's the true definition of success. It has nothing to do with having everything this world has to offer. The greatest success is to meet Allah with clean hands, a steady heart, and a life full of choices you are not ashamed of.
Presented and created by Neuron Studio.